In 2024, you have a lot of options, good options for mid-sized trucks. We got the Chevy Colorado and the GMC Canyon with the 2.7 liter four-cylinder turbo engine. We've got the new Ford Ranger, and it has three turbocharged options, the 2.3, the 2.7, and the 3.0 in the Raptor. And of course, you've got the new 2024 Tacoma with the 2.4 liter turbocharged four-cylinder, and they have a hybrid option. The Nissan Frontier has been built since 2022 in this iteration, and it is the only midsize truck remaining that has a naturally aspirated V6 engine. Well, aside from like the Gladiator and the Ridgeline, but those are more niche, and we're not really going to compare those to these more common, popular midsize trucks. People cross-shop the Tacoma and the Frontier and potentially the Colorado Canyon and the Ranger, and then everything else is sort of in a niche category. That's just how I view it. And just in the comments on my channel, I see people constantly looking for a new Tacoma or a new Tundra, and then they transfer over and buy a Frontier. Comments like this one: Toyota lost me as a customer. I bought a loaded Nissan Frontier crew cab long bed for $39,000 out the door. It's smooth, powerful, and well assembled. The engine has loads of grunt, and the transmission is seamless. And here's why I think sales are going up on the Frontier, why more people are buying Nissan. The most obvious reason and why people are moving to the Frontier is just that, the 3.8 liter naturally aspirated V6. It's a great engine. Nissan has a history of great engines. I'll show you that here in a minute. But I've noticed a lot of Tacoma owners are the type of people that really want a truck for 10, 15 years. They want to put a ton of miles on it, 200,000 or 300,000 miles, and they just aren't sure about this new turbo platform. I think the new platform may be reliable long-term. We just don't know. But given the Tundra's latest blunders, I think it's, people are a little apprehensive about jumping all in on the Tacoma. Reason two, the Frontier has been out the longest out of all of these trucks. It seems to have a relatively low number of problems compared to a lot of its competitors, at least so far. When you drill down into this data, you just don't see a lot of complaints from the 2022s and 2023s and 2024 Frontiers. People seem to love them. The third reason is, well, the Frontier is just not a completely new platform from the ground up like a lot of these other manufacturers. I love this article. 2022 Nissan Frontier, the not so new platform, understanding the 17-year-old bones of this all new pickup. This is actually what people are starting to want more, is a more affordable pickup, build on what worked, and then give me reliability. And I think that's where Nissan's hitting it out of the park right now. And reason number four, pricing and availability. You can pretty much pick your color on the Frontier. They have tons of stock everywhere, even though they are selling much better than they have in 2023. Check this out. You can pick up a 2024 Pro 4X for $36,000, and these are four-wheel drive. They're not two-wheel drive Pro 4Xs, and that's a great-looking truck. You can pick your color, get green, gray, whatever you want. If you compare that to like a Tacoma, maybe the TRD off-road version, you're probably looking at a $10,000 difference at this point, unless you start finding these Tacomas on discount as well. Reason number five of why I think people are switching to Nissan from Toyota is Toyota hasn't exactly hit it out of the park lately with reliability. You can just take, for example, the new Tundra V6 and the Lexus LX600, GX550, all of those. They put that 3.5 liter V6. And as they have a recall right here, it says Toyota recalls 100,000 of these engines over potential stalling. The stalling is actually a blown engine. It's a main bearing failure on the engine, as most of my channel viewers know. And it's not just a stalling. Sure, it's dangerous, and it is a safety hazard, but there were over 100,000 vehicles recalled. People are starting to not trust Toyota as much. The Tacoma hasn't had these problems. The new Tacoma 4Runner, Highlander uses that same 2.4 engine, and many other variants. So we'll see what happens with this turbo engine. I think people are kind of tired of being guinea pigs, though. And even though Tacoma sales are rebounding right now, they're headed up. There are always going to be plenty of people that love pain. You don't have to join them. You don't have to go join them in the pain of testing out Toyota's new TNG AF whatever platform they have, where they get to save 20 to 30% on a vehicle and you get to pay more for it. Go ahead, be a guinea pig, be my guest. But I personally would just take something that's a little more tried and true and iterative rather than a wholesale change like the Tacoma or the Tundra. I'll show you a couple posts of that I found from Frontier owners. See posts like this all the time. I'm looking at getting a new midsize pickup in the next 6 to 12 months. I've driven a new Frontier as a rental and was actually quite impressed at how well it rode, how smooth the engine and transmission combo worked together. Or this one. I love the truck, very smooth driving, good power and delivery. We use ours quite a bit for long-range camping. The suspension is great and truck-like, not car-like. Feels solid and substantial. The LED headlights are a must. Or this one. Brakes and handling are excellent. I find the halogen reflector lamps to be excellent. The halogens are found on the lower model. The Pro 4X and up have the LED headlights. Both seem to be loved, apparently. So much better than other trucks I've owned. Zero squeaks and rattles inside or out. That's a lot better than what you can say for some of these new Toyota trucks. Some of the panel gaps are huge, but they are consistently huge, if that makes sense. So it just seems like it was built consistently and doesn't have a lot of rattles and problems. I would recommend this truck and would buy another. And I see owners like this all over the place talking about the comfort of the seats. I sat in a 2022 for the first time this morning. My first thought was these seats are way more comfortable than my 2007. So again, just iterative design. They're making things better, more comfortable. And I've heard that the seats in the Frontier are actually more comfortable than a lot of the other mid-size out right now. Seems everybody else is kind of going on the cheaper, lighter side. And if you're worried about quality of the engine, Nissan has a long legacy of quality engines. V6s especially, their VQ design, and this is just an iteration on their VQ design. It has direct injection. The only thing I would say about this truck would be to possibly add a catch can to it, just like any of these turbocharged trucks, but you'd have to do that with any of these new ones. Now let's go through some of the good and the bad that I've read through forums, and I'll just summarize it here for you. Some people worry about the 9-speed transmission. It's a Mercedes licensed transmission, licensed by Jatco. It hasn't had really any problems except for a parking pall recall. Now the recall was for the 2020s and 2022s. It only affected some, and Nissan would replace the pin in the transmission and it was good to go. It didn't affect that many, maybe 0.3% of them. Unfortunately, this minor problem actually, for whatever reason, gave it a big negative strike on consumer outlets like Consumer Reports, reports that the Frontier transmission isn't good, and it's actually not true. From what I can tell, this was a very short-lived problem, and it was a very easy problem to fix. It wasn't like some catastrophic engine failure like Toyota's having now. Some people complain about heavy steering. It's got hydraulic steering. Some people personally don't like that. I actually like it. I remember the days when people hated the new electric steering modules, and they actually really like the feel of the hydraulic steering. It feels like you're more connected to the road, so I think that's more of a personal preference thing, but it does feel heavier than the other cars. The turning radius is larger than expected, so if you want a really tight turning radius truck, this one probably isn't for you. And the good, we've already talked a little bit about it, uses the same design from the old Frontier. It was rock solid. The old Frontier had very few problems. They updated the engines and transmission in this new one, but much of the truck is just an iteration, not a wholesale change like the Tacoma. The comfort and the layout of the interior on this, people really like that it's not some big screen sticking up over the dash like a lot of these brands have. It's just a nice, decently large screen integrated and decent quality sound system. And if you upgrade to the Fender with the subwoofer, it sounds great. And then, of course, longevity of Nissan's engines. I think that is a huge plus. I've personally seen Nissan engines last every bit as long as Toyota engines, the good ones. So I think they're built just as well as Toyota in a lot of cases. I can give you a couple personal examples of Nissans in my family. I've owned a 2008 Titan. I've owned 300ZX twin turbos. I've owned a ton of Nissans in the past. I've got two family members that currently own two Nissans, both Xteras with the 4-liter and the 5-speed automatic. One has 217,000 miles on it with almost no issues, just typical maintenance. The other one has 160,000 miles, I believe. Same thing, just rock solid. They wish they could buy a brand new Xterra with just an iterated engine. Hopefully the new Xteras will have a similar platform. So if you're on the fence about a Nissan Frontier because you're not sure about Nissan, or maybe you heard about these CVT transmissions, I see a lot of comments, and I think people don't understand that Nissan trucks are not Nissan cars. Nissan trucks traditionally have been extremely reliable. Now, this is an example of a Nissan Altima, and this was actually common with these Altimas, Sentras, pretty much any of their cars that use this CVT transmission. You know, you'd see this like avoid like the plague. Yeah, because they had this CVT transmission and they did fail at, 70, 80, 100,000 miles. And Nissan was forced to extend the warranty on those transmissions. But it kind of gave the whole brand of Nissan a bad rap. And I think it's undeserved because their trucks, the 5.6 liter in the Titan, the 4 liter in the old Frontier and Xterra, and now the new 3.8 have been rock solid. So I would suggest to you to think about brands as models, not brands. You don't say all Toyotas are great or all Nissans are great or all Nissans are bad. People need to start thinking that it's really model specific, engine specific, transmission specific, and you do need to do a little bit of research. Head out to Car Complaints or another website like this, and you'll start to find a lot of data that will help. Ultimately, the decision is up to you. I would say at least go drive them. Don't just make a decision based on what you see on YouTube and what you see on the internet. Go drive these trucks, see which one you like best, and think about it. If you're someone that keeps your vehicle a long time, 10, 15 years, you might want to consider the Frontier over all the other ones.